Welcome to the Pet Loss Journals podcast. I am your host Louise. This podcast is all about the reality and impact pet loss has on our lives, and I will be discussing my personal journey through pet loss. So if you are struggling on your own pet loss journey, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to episode 18. This week's journal entry is from the 15th of November 2020. I will get started straight away. It's 10:30 p.m. Sunday night, and I've realised that when I'm on my own at the weekends, I'm a little bit of a mess. I've had a list of things that I do, like a checklist for that day, and when all of that is done, then bang, the anxiety comes, the crying, the panic. I've only just realised that I plan my whole day so that I don't have to be alone with myself, my thoughts, or my loneliness. Why can't I be okay on my own? I know I haven't been getting that upset about the dogs as much as before. I still miss them. I am grateful for 2020. It brought me so much. The dogs sent me Steve. I know they did. I need to learn again that it's okay to be on my own. I don't yet feel complete in my life. I know that this is a new chapter. That is this week's journal entry. It's a short and sweet journal entry, but also has quite a bit to get into, to discuss, to chat about. And really the main focus around this journal entry and why I wanted to share it this week is mainly because the theme in it is that I just didn't want to be alone with myself as a human being, alone with my thoughts, alone with my loneliness, basically alone with my grief. That is such a common feeling among so many grieving pet parents, that they just don't want to be alone. And whether you're living alone or not living alone, it's still possible to not want to be alone with your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, your loneliness. Just being alone with yourself in general. So it's something that's really, really difficult to overcome. It's really, really challenging. I struggled immensely with this whole aspect of being alone with myself, and I know I have mentioned this on previous episodes, so I do apologise if I am repeating myself slightly, but as you can tell that it is an ongoing theme within my journal entries, and that's something that I am happy to share on a recurring basis, because it's so valid and it's so important to discuss this. Because what does the overall feeling of being alone really mean? It actually means that I am refusing to feel the emotions that were attached to major loss events in my life. That is what this is all about. Why is that important to discuss it? Is because if we do not process grief in general, we will continue to live our life in this pattern, in this cycle. So when another loss event happens to us, and another, and a couple more happen over our life, we will just continue this cycle and continue this pattern of how we supposedly deal with it, in inverted commas, supposedly. by filling up our day, having a checklist, checking off everything, and filling our day so much that all that is left to do is to sleep. And if we then cannot sleep because we realise that we're not physically doing anything anymore and that we are alone with our thoughts, many of us then turn to a drug such as alcohol, or whether that's pharmaceutical drugs, sleeping tablets, whatever that may be, to then switch our brain off at night so that we can go to sleep. And I speak about this regularly on my pet loss programs that I run, and we speak in depth about this particular thing, how we numb out our feelings with substances or with other such things that might be continuously scrolling mindlessly through social media to avoid the painful emotions that are bubbling under the surface, that we can feel bubbling, but then we turn to something that dulls that down for us, extinguishes it or numbs it, or there are so many different words to describe what we do. And we will keep turning to this particular thing that we do. If it works for us, we will keep turning to that, be that alcohol or be that scrolling or be that whatever it is, busy, walking, excessive exercise, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you. Why is this so damaging? Well, I'll continue to repeat that unresolved grief can only cause us more pain in life, because when there's more loss events in our life, be that if we fall out with a friend, so that's a loss of a friendship, if we go through a romantic breakup, if we lose our job, if we're made redundant, if we retire, if we have serious health issues, a loss of health, the list goes on and on, because there's 40 different kinds of loss. These will just keep piling up. These will keep piling up on our backpack that are on our backs, our backpack of losses that we accumulate, that we carry with us from year to year to year. And if we continue to go down this road of this cycle or this pattern or this thing that we turn to, then and use that all of the time to suppress, to numb, to dull these feelings, we are continuing to not be honest with our emotions, to not look at them, to not process them, and to not recover from grief. Grief and recovery are rarely put into the same sentence, and because we are conditioned to believe that we have to live with grief forever, that it lives with us forever. We learn to carry it, is the saying. We learn to live with it, is a saying. We learn to endure it, is a saying. I could go on and on with the sayings. There are probably many more that you yourself have experienced in life, but what I'm getting at here is, for all of these sayings and all of these statements that we hear, what is really being said here? It's that we cannot be alone with our grief. It is saying that we just have to push it down and suppress it. Recovery means taking action to heal from something that is extremely painful, that has caused us a hell of a lot of emotional or physical pain. That is what the true meaning of recovery is for me. Recovery is realizing that we don't have to live with grief. We don't have to live with the pain of grief. That we can recover, that we can experience joy again in life. that we can experience a sense of peace, a sense of acceptance, a sense of getting to a place where we can acknowledge the fond memories of our loved ones, of our pets. That is what recovery means for me. And that is what recovery can also mean for you. And I think that in sharing this week's journal entry, it really shows that I was living in that societal belief that if I keep busy enough, if I just keep going, doing my checklist every day, that eventually the pain will just leave me, will just fade away from me, will leave my body, will leave my mind, the emotions, the pain, the grief will just go away, will miraculously disappear, disintegrate, extinguish itself. But that is not the case. That is not what happens. Time does not heal. Recovery takes action. Recovery takes meaningful acceptance, meaningful awareness. That's what recovery takes. Thinking that time will go by and that eventually that we can be alone with ourselves and that we'll feel comfortable and safe being alone with ourselves to feel our feelings is a myth. It's not true. And the sooner that awareness comes to the forefront of our minds, that we are doing A, B and C, be that alcohol, be that excessive exercise, be that scrolling, whatever that may be for you, that we are doing these things to not be alone with our feelings. The sooner that we have awareness of that and realise that, then something just clicks inside of us that I need to do something about these painful feelings of grief and loss that I've experienced either recently or quite some time ago. And I know that a lot of you might be thinking, I don't think that's what I'm doing, or I don't know, but listen to this episode again from start to finish. Journal on it. Ask yourself, am I able to be alone with myself? And underneath that, write a question. Am I able to feel my feelings? Am I able to process these emotions while I am alone with myself, without distractions, without having a checklist to do for your day? Am I suppressing my emotions? Am I actually processing this major loss event in my life? Am I actually doing that? Just open that door to awareness is my key bit of advice for this week. This has been an episode that is truly, truly close to my heart, that I am really positive about spreading awareness about this particular topic. Being alone with ourselves. That is something that I'm so passionate about, because even if we have a family of our own and we are constantly worried about them and we're too busy taking care of our family and we're neglecting our own needs, we're neglecting our own needs to process the grief that we need to process because we're too busy thinking about the others in our life. We're too busy caring for them. We're too busy supporting them in their grief. But what about your grief? Because that is important too. I urge you to begin to have awareness. Begin to take time to sit down with yourself and journal and start to process this. Sit down, search for a grief counsellor, search for a grief recovery specialist, sign up to a pet loss support program, listen to all of these podcasts, get some books on Amazon that can help you with pet loss. I urge you to prioritize your own needs, prioritize healing from your own grief experience. That is something that I really want to get that point across on this week's episode. Really, really try to go inwards and see, is there a way that I can be alone with myself? Does it start with half an hour in the day? Does that start with really sitting there and closing your eyes and being alone with yourself, alone with your thoughts, alone with your loneliness, your emotions? Sit there and feel those feelings. Cry, journal, write it down. Send a voice note. Listen to your voice note back. Send a voice note to yourself. Send a voice note to your closest friend. Anything to prioritize your own feelings of grief, and to write down, do I think I can recover from this intense loss experience? Because that is something that's a really good question to ask yourself. Following on from this week's episode, I would love to share that I have released a journal prompts guide, and this is a pet loss journal prompts guide. This is an extensive guide to guide you through your grief journey that you are on. Pop out and purchase yourself a lovely fresh new journal, and this guide is printable, or you can jot down the journal prompts from the document that you download on your computer or on your phone. Either or, there are both options, and I urge you to give this a go. It is really, really helpful. I've had great feedback from clients that have used this, and it is something that my team and I have put together. There's lots of compassion and care gone into this document, this guide, to help you to begin to process those painful feelings. So the details are going to be all in the show notes for the Pet Loss Journal Prompts Guide. And of course, I welcome any feedback. Thank you for listening to this week's episode, and I will speak to you very soon. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this week's episode. Remember, your pet loss grief is real, and it is so valid. Please be gentle on yourself. Until next time, take care.